Everybody, welcome to JAIIB CAIIB English Medium channel. I hope that all of you are doing fine. Today is the second part of most important questions for your IE and IFS examination. This session is dedicated for module B, and we will be learning more questions and how to solve those questions, more concepts via this particular class. So let's get started. First question in front of you. If the price index during May 2024 is 193.40 and it was 186.20 during May 2023, inflation rate is what? You have to calculate the inflation rate. Now, in the previous class, we have seen a good amount of questions, approximately 5 to 6 questions based on formulas. And today also, we will be continuing the same pattern. We will try to cover all those important questions from where the numericals can be asked. So what will be the right answer for this question? It talks about the inflation rate. As you know that inflation rate is nothing but a simple aspect of measuring the sustained price rise over a period of time. Here the period of time is, the time period is 1 year, fine. And when you talk about the formula, it will be the latest index, that is for the May 2024, 193.40, minus the previous year's data, that is 186.20, divide by your previous year data, again 186.20, multiply by 100 in case you want the particular number in a percentage, the inflation rate. So it will come out to be 3.86. That will be the correct answer once you solve this. And whether you have to solve it via, you can say, the manual way, or for that matter with the calculator also, I would highly recommend that you must use the calculator, no matter how easy the calculation looks like. But when you are sitting in the examination hall, it is always difficult, right? So try to use the calculator from the practice days only, so that you do not feel any trouble while sitting in the examination. So B will be the right answer here. Based on the information provided below, what is the true statement regarding CPI, the Consumer Price Index? So first statement states that CPI is released annually by the NSO, that is National Statistical Office. So NSO indeed releases the CPI numbers, but it is doing the same job monthly. Fine, it is not annual data. So whether it is CPI or for that matter WPI, both are released on monthly basis, and your IIP as well. Core inflation includes the effects of volatile food and energy prices. No. Okay. A is wrong. B is also wrong. Why? Because core inflation, always remember, it excludes the effect of these volatile food and energy prices. Here it is written that it includes. Then we have the current CPI uses a base year of 2012 with a base value of 100. That is absolutely right. CPI is measured at wholesale level. No, it is measured at your retail level. Fine. So always remember that retail level is a particular uh, issue which we have to resolve time and again. Okay. So whenever we talk about the CPI, all the important things are in front of you, that it is released monthly by NSO. The core inflation via CPI, when you calculate it, you have to exclude food and energy prices. Plus the current year was 2012 for the base year. Fine, the current CPI is calculated using the base year of 2012, or for that matter 2011-12, if you want to call it like that. CPI is always measured at retail level. So the right answer will be option C. Then we have, which of the following statements accurately distinguishes between the classical and Keynes theories of rate of interest. So whenever we talk about these two theories, one thing is common, that we are talking about the rate of interest. How we arrive at a particular rate of interest, that is the area of interest for these particular theories. So classical theory, they talk about, the classical economists, they talk about a particular scenario where market forces must be present and there is no need for the government intervention. Keynes, on the other hand, JM Keynes will come and say that we need government intervention for having the stability in the price market. And what is the exact difference? Let's try to decipher from these four options. The classical theory emphasizes the role of supply of money and demand for money, while Keynes focuses on saving and investment. So whether this is right or not, because in the classical theory we have seen that they only emphasize on the supply and demand of savings, right? So whether this is right or not, the classical theory posed that the interest rate is determined by saving and investment, while Keynes argues it is determined by the supply of money and the liquidity preference. A better way to put it out, right? The liquidity preference is one of the key area of your Keynes theory. Both theories agree that the rate of interest is determined by supply of money, but they differ on the factors influencing the demand side. So if there was an agreement between the two theories, why do you think that there were two different theories then? Right? So this is wrong. Both theories agree that saving and investment determine the interest rate, but they differ on the role of government intervention. Definitely, we say that role of government intervention is a point of contention between J.M. Keynes and the classical economists. But when we talk about the actual reason, it was this only. The classical theory actually tells us that the interest rate is determined by the saving and investment, the supply and demand of saving, and that particular saving will be demanded by whom? By the business firms who need investment. While Keynes argues it is determined by the supply of money. Money supply ensures everything in the market. Along with that, the liquidity preference theory, the LPT of your J.M. Keynes. So always try to break down the complex statements. Try to remember how you have retained all those concepts in the actual exam also. Only then you will be able to arrive at the correct answer. Then we have, according to Keynes' liquidity preference theory, which of the following correctly matches the motives for holding cash with their respective descriptions? So in J.M. Keynes' theory, we have seen what? That whenever we are talking about various uh, description of J.M. Keynes' theory, we say that the liquidity must be maintained. And according to J.M. Keynes, we are living in a two asset economy where cash and bonds are of the ultimate utilization. And why people are not investing much, why they are holding back their cash? Because of three motives. Now you have to identify that what are the motives which are actually present in J.M. Keynes liquidity preference theory, and whether we have them here in these four options or not. So first motive, transaction motive, which is for holding the cash for speculative gains. Speculative motive, holding the cash for day-to-day transactions. Precautionary motive, holding the cash for unforeseen expenses. So when we talk about transaction motive, it is for holding the cash for day-to-day transaction. Speculative is for speculative gains. Precautionary is for unforeseen expenses. So A is wrong. Transaction motive is for holding the cash for unforeseen expenses. Again, it is wrong. Transaction motive actually is for holding the cash for day-to-day transaction, be it the day-to-day transaction of the business firms or for that matter individuals. Speculative motive is holding the cash for potential future gains from the asset price change. Right? So right now you are holding the cash so that in the future, when the price fluctuates and it becomes favorable, you gain more. Precautionary motive, holding the cash for unforeseen expenses. You do not have the particular motive right now, but for future you are holding the cash back. Why? Because you know that something bad may happen. You might lose your job, or for that matter the business might run out. Okay, so C is the right answer here for this particular question based on the motives why people hold cash. Next, we have ISLM framework, a very important topic. Every year, IIBF asks questions from here. In the ISLM framework, if the Indian government increases its spending on infrastructure projects, which of the following is most likely to occur? So always remember, in ISLM framework, whenever we study in the class as well, we try to say that you must uh, break down the particular statement using two components. First component, in ISLM framework, which curve will shift? When we talk about the fiscal policy, and which curve will shift when we talk about monetary policy. So always remember, in fiscal policy, your IS curve will shift. Fine, investment savings curve will shift because we are talking about the savings of individuals. And when we are discussing the liquidity preference theory, the LM curve, it is for the monetary policy. Any change occurring in the monetary policy, your LM curve will shift. Simple. First thing is this. Secondly, whenever there is rise in the, you can say, cash or level of income, then the curve will shift towards right. And if there is decrease in the level of income, the curve will shift towards left. These two things, if you know, any kind of question, I'm stating it on this particular platform, any kind of question related to ISLM framework, uh, you will be able to answer correctly. Okay. So ISLM framework, government has increased the spending, means the influx of funds have increased, fine, raising the level of income. So curve will shift where? Right or left? It will shift towards right. Okay. Its spending on the infra projects has increased. Which of the following is most likely to occur? So right curve will, the curve will shift towards right. And since we are talking about government, so we are talking about the fiscal policy, and fiscal policy pertains to the IS curve. So IS curve will shift towards right. That's it. Now you can identify which is the correct statement. IS curve will shift towards left, cross. LM curve, cross, because it is for the monetary policy when the RBI is doing something. IS curve will shift towards right, yes, leading to higher interest rate and higher output. That is absolutely right. C will be your correct answer. Okay, so like that you have to understand, break the statements, and then arrive at the right answer. Okay, so fiscal expansion, here you can see that whenever there is fiscal expansion, the government either increases the money supply on its own, like increasing the supply of money for a particular project, or for that matter, it decreases the taxes. Okay, the tax burden reduces and people have more level of income. In fiscal contraction, what will happen? Your money supply will be reduced. Government no longer spends for infrastructure projects or other projects as well, and it increases the taxes as well. So the overall economy will be having lesser income, and the curve will shift towards left. Which curve? The IS curve. Then we have dash are the two primary assets preferred by the customers under the liquidity theory of interest provided by J.M. Keynes. So as we were discussing about the LPT, the liquidity preference theory, there I told you that there are three motives, and why the three motives are there: to hold cash. Okay, and which of the following are the two primary assets? One being cash, another one which we were discussing was bonds. So the correct answer will be option C. Now just think for a second and try to answer this question, whether in today's world also we have two asset economy or not. Whether we see that two asset economy model is being followed by the world today, or there is some change, because this two asset model given by J.M. Keynes was back in 1930s when the J.M. Keynes liquidity preference theory was published in the mid, you can say in the later half of 1930s. But today we have three asset model, fine, where one is cash, another one is bond, and the third one being the stocks or the shares, fine, the stock market as we call it. Okay, so always remember, right now we are having three asset economy, or the three assets which are determining the overall market, but earlier it was only two asset economy. Next, which of the following is not a characteristic of business cycle? So in business cycle, we have different characteristics, that it is synchronic. Yes, it is recurring. It moves up, then moves down, and have a similar pattern throughout. It is wave-like also. Yes, it goes like this, like a wave. And when we talk about the synchronic behavior, up, down, that we have seen, non-pervasive in effect or not? No, it is pervasive in effect, and that is why this will be the right answer. Okay, what is pervasive? That supposingly I am telling you that the cotton industry is reeling under stress, right? So it cannot happen without the contribution from the other industries as well. So whenever there is recession in one industry, it is indicative of the fact that your overall sector will get hit. Right now, if it is working fine, but in future it will definitely get hit. And this particular, you can say, component or this particular characteristic is known as pervasive. That is penetrating. Fine. So penetration means what? You are moving from one industry to another industry. Okay, penetration. Fine. So penetration is there from one industry to another industry, and overall the sector, the secondary sector will get hit. If we talk about the movement of business cycle, it's not like that cotton industry is reeling under recession and all the other industries are at boom. No, the overall economy, the overall sector of an economy will get hit, and it will be visible to all of us. So that is why we say that business cycle is having a pervasive effect. It penetrates, it spreads over the industries. Then we have a question, in which phases of business cycle the following characteristics are observed. So we have three characteristics based on which we'll be defining the type of phase. There are four phases primarily of business cycle, right? So first statement, an extremely low aggregate demand in the economy causes activity to slow down. Overall activity is slowing down. And when we say extremely low aggregate demand, it means we are not talking about a recession. We are talking about a step ahead or the step after the or the phase after the recession. Inflation is comparatively lower, so it has reduced further. Employment avenues begin to close, forcing unemployment rate to rise rapidly. So unemployment rate is there in recession also, but now unemployment rate is rising rapidly. In which phase do we see this? We see this in the depression phase, a phase marked by prolonged recession phase. Okay, so depression phase will be the right interpretation of these three statements. Then we have the tenors of the term repos conducted by RBI and the targeted long-term repo operations were between dash. So always remember, during COVID era, RBI came up with the TLTROs, that is targeted long-term repos. And here, when we talk about the TLTROs, we had this particular mechanism in the Eurozone, from where we were inspired to take the hint, and we introduced these long-term operations in our country as well. So we target certain sectors which are having specific needs right now. Fine. So specific needs will be determined first by the RBI, and after that the money will be redirected to those sectors. We will be targeting those sectors. So the time period being the long-term repo operation, what will be the right answer? 1 year and 3 year, 2 year and 4 year, 5 year, 10 year, or 3 year and 5 year. So as we know that during COVID, it was for 1 year and 3 years. So option A is the right answer here. Next, we have a question, a very interesting question based on CRR and SLR. Often students make mistake here, but I am assuming that all of you are smart enough to eliminate the wrong options. According to the regulations set by the Reserve Bank of India (RBI), which of the following statements regarding the maximum and minimum limits of the cash reserve ratio and the statutory liquidity ratio is correct? So CRR, SLR, which of the following statements will be correct here about the cash reserve ratio and the SLR, the both reserves of RBI? Not of RBI, but yes, stipulated by RBI to the commercial banks. So first of all, where do CRR falls? Whether it is reserved within the bank or for that matter with the RBI. So always remember, cash reserve ratio is maintained by the banks with the RBI. SLR, it is maintained by the bank itself, within the bank itself. CRR is mentioned in the RBI Act and SLR is in the Banking Regulation Act. In CRR, the banks earn no interest for CRR, for keeping aside the funds in CRR. But for SLR, they do have the particular interest. Fine, they earn interest on SLR reserves. So what will be the right answer here? CRR has legally defined maximum minimum limit, while SLR has no maximum or minimum limit. So always remember, earlier there used to be huge reserves for CRR and SLR, but gradually after the Narsimham Committee one recommendation, we saw gradual reduction of CRR as well as SLR. But there is no legally defined minimum or maximum limit in case of CRR. Fine, there is no legally defined limits of CRR. For SLR though, we have one maximum limit. Fine, there is one maximum limit, but no minimum limit is prescribed. So it has a maximum limit, but not any minimum limit. That is why A is wrong. CRR has no legally defined maximum minimum limit. SLR has a legally defined maximum limit, but no statutory minimum limit. Yes. So B will be the right answer here. Okay. So when we talk about SLR, always remember this maximum limit is of 40%. And right now, when we talk about the current limits, which we have to remember for our exam, for CRR, you have to remember what? 3.50, which is right now for your October month. But for the examination, as you know, the June data will be asked, and back then in June, the CRR was 4%. So this you have to remember for the exam as the CRR limit, that is 4%. For SLR, since a long time it is same, only 18% is the right answer. Okay, so these two limits you must remember for the examination. Fine. So this was it for today's session. I hope that you liked the type of questions. And if you have any doubt, do feel free to comment your doubts in the comment section. And if you want to have guidance for our courses, that which course suits your preparation better, directly you can contact us on the number 0981